Something is going wrong at Cover Corp, or at least that's what people are saying after the recent graduation of Ceres Fauna from Hololive. This graduation announcement came as a big surprise to a lot of people in the community, including myself, because a lot of people did not expect Fauna to graduate, especially so soon after Chloe of the JP branch. Suffice to say, this was a very sudden graduation, and the reasons that are stated are very similar to ones we've heard in the past. Management. And of course, when things are left a little bit vague in this community, of course speculation is going to run awry. So I want to take this video to really discuss that speculation and sort of look at some of the facts really when it comes to sort of why people are graduating from Hololive, because we do know and there are stated reasons why these talents keep leaving, which is management and company direction. One of the problems that a lot of VTuber companies have, I think, is that they don't really have a clear sense of direction. I think this is very evident if you look at a lot of the smaller corporations, but if we look at even the bigger ones like Nijisanji or Hololive, it's clear that they kind of want a best of both worlds approach when it comes to idols and having virtual streamers. At the end of the day, Hololive is a corporation with investors, and investors want a return on their investment, and they seem to really want to cut out the fluff that really doesn't provide return on their investment. And I think a lot of these investors in Hololive probably want the company to shift more in the idol direction rather than having the virtual streaming part of it be sort of the main focal point for a lot of their talent. Inyagu seems to state from one of the interviews that he had that Hololive wouldn't be able to sustain itself without investors. So appeasing these investors, of course, is going to be a top priority for a company that wants to remain afloat and sustainable for the long term. I think some people have some very interesting theories about the investors in Hololive, and some have more merit than others, but I think one of the things we can definitely agree on is that investors don't really care that much about talent well-being, because as far as the investors are concerned, as long as the talents are performing and getting the return on investment for the company and the investors, that's really all they need to worry about. So there's just a disconnect of interest here. I mean, the company wants to sort of pay off the investors and also make sure their talent are happy, but the investors are just concerned about their return on investment, and they don't really care about the company itself per se, as long as it's returning value to them. And they don't really care about the talent as long as they're providing value to the company. Now, I'm sure you don't need me to explain why this is a problem, but I bring this all up to say that the investors definitely seem to be wanting to push Hololive in a certain direction that really doesn't represent what the talent want or what the fans want from Hololive. I think a lot of fans go to VTubers for the live streaming aspect more so than the idol aspect. However, judging by a couple of clips that have come out sort of discussing the Chloe graduation, I think there sort of is a bit of a push for talent to sort of go in this idol direction a lot more than they might want to. With talent like Amelia Watson, it makes sense why she wouldn't want to really go in the idol direction. It really wasn't something that I think she joined Hololive for, and for Fauna, I can probably guess the same. I imagine most people when they apply to Hololive really are kind of in it for the virtual streaming aspect rather than being the idol, concert performing, song producing type. That really isn't the main draw for a lot of people that really apply to Hololive, and I don't think it's really the main appeal for a lot of VTuber fans. I'm sure there are a lot of VTuber fans that love the idol aspect of Hololive and think it's probably the best thing ever, but I think that's particularly on the JP side, and when we look at the English branch, I think a lot of the appeal really is in the virtual streaming aspect where they build a connection with the streamer, they enjoy watching them play games, have fun moments, and really collab with their gen mates. That is the main appeal for me, and I think it's the big appeal for a lot of English speaking fans. As I'm not Japanese, I can't really speak to the interests of the Japanese fans, but I just know on the English side, that is the main draw from what I can tell. I think these talent went into Hololive with different expectations and different wants than what is currently the company's long-term vision, and that disagreement with management sort of created a conflict where I think a lot of these talents are starting to see that the corporation route probably isn't for them. I mean, let's be clear here, there are a lot of restrictions that come with being in Hololive. You can't play certain games, you can't sing certain songs, there are restrictions to sort of how you can conduct yourself online. So I think when you look at the company's direction and you look at all these restrictions, and then you look at Doobie and then you look at Dokibird, I think it's pretty fair to say that a lot of talent are now looking at their corporations as a stepping stone rather than a thing that's going to be a long-term investment that they want to stick with. Freedom is very enticing for a lot of indies right now, especially those that are tied into a corporation which they've been with for multiple years and have built an established fan base that's going to follow them to whatever new accounts they sort of build off of. We know this works, and while there may be some opportunities that aren't really afforded to the VTubers who leave their companies because they're not with a big agency, for a VTuber who really doesn't want to lean into sort of that idol direction or really get some big opportunities, that really isn't a big concern for them. But yeah, this really hasn't been a good year for corporate VTubing, to say the least. I mean, Idol got bought out, we had these multiple graduations, Nijisanji is a whole can of worms. But yeah, I don't really imagine that 2025 is going to be a better year for corporate VTubing at this rate, and I think it's going to probably start seeing some diminishing returns when it comes to retaining their talent, especially if they actually want to go into VTubing mainly for the virtual streaming and virtual entertainment aspect of it, rather than the sort of idol performance, sort of big events sort of idea that a lot of these agencies seem to be pushing for, because that's what the investors want. Now, with all that being said, I think there's sort of a reaction to Cover Corp, which is very reactionary right now, and I understand it, but I think a lot of people are really taking a lot of their anger out on Cover Corp in a way that I don't think is necessarily productive. Of course, if you do want Hololive to sort of go in the direction that really benefits their talent over the investors, I think there's a lot of work you need to do on that front to really make that happen. But I don't think we need to go about calling for Yagu's death or anything, okay? I think that's a little crazy, and I think that might be pushing the line a little. And I don't think speculating about Sweet Baby Inc. is really helping either. But I think we need to take a very measured response to sort of the issue that the corporations are facing when it comes to not really fulfilling on the talent's interest or the interests of many of the fans that really watch Hololive. Now, asking the community to really take a measured response to anything is a little bit of a big endeavor, but I think honestly we should be vocal about sort of our opinion on these changes and the direction that Hololive is going in. I think JP fans probably should as well, if they really do think that the direction that the company is going is also not benefiting their interests, because they probably do have more sway than we do as English viewers. And I have heard on the Japanese side there is actually a lot of discontent with Yagu's sort of leadership right now, so maybe there might already be enough pressure to sort of make Hololive realize that maybe this isn't the direction they want to go. Even if they need to appease some investors, maybe they need to tell the investors that, hey, we know what's actually going to work for our company, and if you want your return on investment, maybe you don't want to actually push us in a direction that's going to lead to long-term upset with our fans. Not saying that's easy by any means, because investors seem to have their head in their ass most times and don't understand the consumers that make the product successful in the first place, and thus will piss them off endlessly until eventually there's no consumer left to buy their product. Anyways, that's it. I think I covered the bulk of what I think about this graduation and sort of what I think is sort of the causal effect of why a lot of these talent are graduating, and why we'll probably see more graduations in the near future. Because as long as the talent and the corporation interests are not aligned, there's going to be problems that come up, and the talents, I think, are looking at the sort of climate we're in and realizing, hey, I can do this on my own and I don't need the corporation. Anyways, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Sorry, saplings, I'm really sad for you guys, honestly, I really am. But hopefully you can find fun on the other side, and yeah, peace out.
Little shrimp, that's all I will ever be, but I'm happy knowing that I will be okay. Maybe one day something will change. I'm happy with it, it's all I can ever be. I was born this way and I know that I'll love it. Maybe one day something will change. Just a little shrimp, that's all I will ever be, but I'm